Good morning. Whoa. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. All right. I'm Ray with America's Preferred Home Warranty. I'm going to introduce our speaker here and tell you a little bit about America's Preferred Home Warranty. But first, if you are here and you think you're going to listen to the breakout session with Kelly with KV Core, you're in the wrong spot. Go to 156 or 158. There's always one, right? All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Ray with America's Preferred Home Warranty. It is an honor to be here, seeing all your smiley faces. I've met many of you I have not. Come and see me at my booth over in Suite 104. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about America's Preferred Home Warranty real quick. And I know warranty, it's not a sexy subject, right? It's, warranties again, okay? But what I wanted to do is just tell you a little bit about how I approach the warranty industry and how I approach you guys as agents and try to get a different mindset of the warranty. And so with that, everybody close your eyes. Everybody close your eyes. Think about something that you expected. Your expectations, whether it be a restaurant that you went to that somebody recommended. Maybe it was a vacation that you went on and you expected certain things. Maybe it was a car that you bought and you expected certain things because that's what you heard about. It was recommended, okay? Now think about anything that your expectations were there and they were not met. I was expecting this and I got this, okay? You can open your eyes, whatever that was, whatever that story was, whatever thought you had, in my world, the industry of home warranties, I have come to believe that you guys have certain expectations, okay? And no, not everything's covered, right? Okay, and that's the biggest thing. And what I've been doing this now 8 years, and what I've grown to learn, because I listen to you guys through one-on-ones and trainings and meetings and things like this, is, man, these guys, they're buying into what I'm telling them, but they're still unsure of how to offer the warranty. Okay, what is a warranty? How do I offer it? What's it cover? You don't need to know what's covered and what's not in a home warranty. You just need the overall value, and that's kind of where I come into the picture. Meeting for coffee, doing things like this, doing trainings in the office is, what is a warranty? How do I offer it to my clients with the right expectations? I'm huge on expectations, and that's why I started out with that. What do I expect? Okay, your clients hired you to walk them through a process so they know what to expect, and the home warranty is no different, okay? All of us warranty companies, here's a secret, but not really, we all pretty much cover the same things, okay? It's the relationship that we build and the trust that we build and how I teach you the home warranty. And so what I've come up with, if anybody ever wants to meet with me for coffee, come see me in room 104 throughout the next 2 days. We'll schedule something, but what I want to offer to you guys is I've come up with scripting, and who likes scripting? Nobody likes scripting. I call it conversational pieces when you're offering the warranty to your clients, okay? And it sets the tone, it sets the expectations, so there are no surprises. And again, I have to reiterate, it's not what's covered and what's not. It's the expectation of the warranty, okay? The warranty can be part of your business. It can actually be part of your business, and it can grow your database and be a referral source. Did I get anybody's interest there? You mean the warranty can be part of my database and have a piece of my referral business, a part of my referral business? Yes. And those are the types of things I want to cover with you guys if you ever want to meet with me one-on-one, in a small group, whatever the case may be. That is my offer to you. Okay? Does that sound fair? All right. Are we all in? All right. Okay. Without further ado, I just met Robert. Seems like a good guy. I don't know what to expect. No, I'm expecting great things from Robert. Robert is an author, an engaging communicator, and a leading expert in empowering leadership. His work is centered on helping leaders get the best out of themselves and those that work for them. Robert works with leaders who desire increasing productivity, initiative, and follow through, reduce stress, and get the very best out of their team on every project, regardless of who they may lead. Please welcome Robert Heath.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Have a great one. All right, everybody, can you all hear me? Yes. Okay, good. I don't got to use my command voice. I can just use my regular talking voice. All right, so a couple of things, and I guess I should get up on the stage so that everybody can see me because I'm not 6'7". So for those of you all that are in here, really quick question. How many of you all actually have teams that you lead? Very good. All right, you got a couple people in the back, but most of you all are individual sales reps, sales or agents, correct? So if you are an agent and you don't lead anybody, let me hear you say aye. All right, that was very weak. Now, you're going to hear a little bit later that I'm a former Marine Corps commander. I'm used to hearing people scream at the top of their lungs when I'm asking them questions, but I'm also a former high school teacher and basketball coach. So even if you're in my class, you still have to speak. You don't get to be quiet. So let me hear it again. If you are an agent, let me hear you say aye. Aye. All right, if you are a mortgage lender or someone in the mortgage industry, let me hear you say aye. All right, there we go. So a couple of things, as you all heard, I'm a leadership guy. Most of what I do is I help leaders to get the best out of their teams, but I also help leaders to get the best out of themselves, right? And the first person you have to lead is who? Bingo. So for all of you all, even if you don't have anybody, what we're going to be talking about today are some of the skills that you need to have so that you can lead yourself, right? Because you have to earn the right to lead other people. Does that make sense? And now, how many of you all out there are wanting to increase your ability to make sales? Say aye. Aye. All right, I don't know if I'm in the right place because it doesn't seem like a lot of people are really interested in increasing their sales. Let's try this again. If you want to increase the number of sales, especially with all the forecasts and all the things that are going on, there are going to be some people that's going to make a lot of money in 2023. There's going to be some people that's going to lose their shirts. Are we all clear on that? Yeah. All right, so if you want to be part of the former and not part of the latter, let me hear you say aye. Ah, there we go. Now we got some people in here. So, all right, are my slides up yet? There we go. So, a couple of things that we do. My business focuses mainly on business development, on leadership, on how to increase the efficacy of your team. But a lot of what we do also is help small business owners to improve their small businesses because, again, you've got to earn the right to lead a team. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is what we call legacy business results. Now, if I turn my clicker on, I can actually move my slides. There we go. A little bit about me so that you know that I'm not just talking of things that I've read or things that I've seen, but things that I've lived. A couple of things. Like I told you, I was in the United States Marine Corps for about 8 years. I was a company commander during that period of time. I took the company that was the smallest company in the battalion, which was about 220 Marines and sailors. And eventually my boss said, hey, Heath, you're doing such a good job here. Take another 160 Marines and sailors. But we're not going to give you any more staff because you got it. Right? And so we actually wound up having one of the largest companies in the Marine Corps at that point in time. And, we were spread across 3 different bases, et cetera. So I've led people. I've done a number of different things in that space. I have 20 years in business experience doing various different things. I, at one point in time, had an Amway business. Does anybody else have an Amway business? All right, there you go. So you understand, right? I hit that 1,000 PV. I was starting to grow, and then I decided to go to law school. So after that, I started a jiu-jitsu school while I was a company commander down in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And a lot of the techniques that I talk to my clients about with regard to time management and how to master your time, that's a lot of stuff that allowed me to move from working about 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, to about 4 hours a day, starting a jiu-jitsu gym and still being home to see my family and eat dinner and do all the rest of that type of stuff. Because before that, my wife had given me this little tap on the shoulder and she said, hey, I didn't get married to be a single parent. And it was like, ooh, that really hurt. She was like, you're not deployed. Your office is 2.5 miles from our front door, but I never see you. And I figured out I had to do things differently. And so once I figured out how to do things differently, I started to be able to do exponentially more. Like I said, I'm still running that same company. It grew by 160 Marines and sailors. We took care of more people, did more things. I started a business, and my wife was happy with me because I was home. All right? So if you're interested in that stuff, stop me after, we'll talk, because mastering your time is something you're definitely gonna need to do. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. I've written a couple of books about business growth and business strategy. One of them is Thriving in Chaos, which I was just telling you about, but another one is Why Can't People Do Their Jobs? And the last one is 6 Figures in 60 Minutes for Small Business. It's a bunch of strategies on how you can improve your small business efficacy. Now, have any of you all heard of the program Spring GR here in the Grand Rapids, Holland area? All right, so Spring GR is a small business accelerator that has worked with over 800 small businesses in the Grand Rapids area. We've got a couple, as a matter of fact, I've coached a couple of Holland businesses myself. During that period of time, I've been a Spring GR coach for a couple of years. I've coached over 100 businesses. And what we do is help businesses to understand the basic building blocks of how to build a business that grows, right? Is that something that sounds like it might be interesting to you all? Let me hear you say aye. Aye. All right, very good. So this is what we're going to talk about today. Specifically, we're going to talk about the things that you need to do to maximize your time and your revenue. Now, how many of you all have ever heard of the 80-20 rule? Yeah. All right, very good. How many of you all are actually utilizing the 80-20 rule? Don't raise your hands, it's okay, shh, right? It's difficult. Most people talk about, well, let me ask it this way. How many of you all have ever felt or are feeling right now in your business a little bit overwhelmed? A little bit like this, there we go, I like it, right? A little bit like there's too many things to do and not enough hours in the day to do them. Does that make sense? All right, so one of the reasons that happens is because we focus on the wrong things. We're doing all the things, but only 20% of the things are actually making us money. Only 20% of the things are actually moving us closer to our goal. But here's the rub. It's really hard to know what the 20% are, right? Everybody out there, tell the truth. Let me see your hands. If you knew what the 20% were, would you be doing them? Yes. There we go, right? So obviously, that's one of the problems that we run into. So the key thing to understand is that the crucial 20% of things that you need to be doing in your business can be broken down into a 5-step formula that are focused on 5 particular things, right? Number 1, the foundations of your business. What systems do you have in place? What things are you doing on a consistent basis that make sure that you don't have to worry about your business? Secondly, of course, you have to get more leads. Is this an area where you might want some information today? Yes, no, maybe? If you want some more leads, say aye. Aye. All right. How about more conversions? Because it's great if you have 1,000 people coming in your inbox every day, but if you are not making sales, does it matter? All right. Next is more transactions. How can you increase the number of transactions per customer that you have, right? Now, in your business, it's really interesting because people buy houses on average, what? 3 to 5, right? Now, so you might be looking over a decade, how can you increase the number of transactions? Because think about it like this. If over 3 to 5 years, you can make sure that everybody buys twice with you instead of once, what have you just done to your business? Doubled it, right? As well as the incremental growth. So as time goes on, that compounding, you grow very, very quickly. The last thing is you want to become more profitable. A lot of times what we wind up doing is not paying attention to our profit margins. Revenue is great, but revenue doesn't matter. You could be $1 million business and be broke. Or you could be a $200,000 business and be making a very good living. All right? So in those 5 things, a lot of times, it's me. In those 5 things, a lot of times what we want to focus on is where are the gaps? What are the things that we don't understand? What are the things that we don't know? So today, one of the things I want to talk to you about is about foundations and about how do you get more leads and how do you get more leads that convert, right? And the topic of today is entering the buyer's mind and creating a market dominating position. Does that sound interesting to you all today? All right, there we go. So I'm in the right place. That's one of the things I like to check on beforehand. For some of you all that have seen this presentation before, you all can answer the questions earlier because you already know the answers, but that's cool. For the rest of you all who haven't seen it, it's going to be all new. So the basic thing is this. The key thing to being able to increase your profitability in your business is that you must be able to enter the conversation that's already occurring in your prospect's mind. So often we spend time trying to get people's attention without understanding what captures attention. Do you notice how when I started my speech today, I didn't start talking about myself? Right? There was a slide that was about me, but what do we start off with? You. What do you want? Why are you here? Because do you really care about me? Let's be honest. I mean, like I'm a likable guy, right? My wife thinks I'm attractive, right? Like, so at the end of the day, you're going to be nice to me, but that's not why you came into this room. You didn't come here because you're like, I need to meet this Robert guy. right? You came in here because the topic was about something that you were interested in. Guess what your clients are doing? Same thing. They care not about the fact that you're a realtor, that you've been doing this for however many years, or that you have so many clients. It means nothing to them. You have to be able to enter the conversation that's going on in their minds. Then you become relevant, especially if you're going to help them to solve whatever the dilemma is that they're dealing with. And we're going to get into that a little bit later, right? So just so that we're clear, that's the key to successful marketing. If you leave here with nothing more than that, you have left with a ton, right? This is what great marketers do. They get you interested in them as an ally to what they're doing. So you're not the person that's telling them what to do, you're helping them, right? There's a phenomenal marketer named by the name of Donald Miller. How many of you all have ever heard of Donald Miller? Story brand. Okay? So one of the things that Donald Miller talks about is that if you look at all of the superhero movies, the great dramas of our time, right? There's always a hero, but what do they always have? There's two things that they always have. One is a great challenge, right? There's something that has to happen, right? Let's think about, for example, Star Wars movie, right? So let's go through the story. What happens? The first one, New Hope, right? Luke Skywalker, y'all remember the story? So his parents, right? Obi-Wan dies. There's this whole thing. His uncle and his aunt die. And now he's trying to figure out who he is. And he must become a what? A Jedi. So that he can go beat the big bad empire, right? So there's always this big monumental challenge that the hero has to face. And then there's always a guide to help them along their way. Now, what most people in business mess up is that we try to be the hero. Look at me. I'm so awesome. I'm so amazing. You need me. But guess what your role is in the story? I heard one person almost get it. Say it again. Almost. Rob is more like a sidekick. Guide. Yoda. Right? You're the one who knows how to help them get to where they're trying to go. You shorten the path. They still get to be the hero. And that's why you have to be able to enter the conversation that's going on in their mind so that you understand what the path is that you're shortening, right? So now what we're going to be doing today is we're actually going to do this in two parts. So I've got two sections. You can get the first one. We're going to talk about entering the buyer's mind, and we're going to talk about taking them onto a journey in the second breakout. If you decide to stay in here, if you don't, you'll get enough in this first one, and then you can talk to the people who decide to stay for the second one. Good to go? So entering the buyer's mind, the key thing is that buyers always have two things that are going on in their minds, right? And they're always emotional. We think that we are rational beings who sometimes feel emotion. But if you've read anything written by Brené Brown or looked at psychology in the last 10 years, you know that we are actually emotional beings who sometimes do things rationally. Right? And if you can tap into that, you can start the work of getting into the mind of the buyers that you're working with. Right? So the other thing that you want to understand is that the conversation is always going to be one of two things. Number one, it's going to be a problem that they have that they do not want to have anymore. It is the bane of their existence. Have you ever had a problem that you have where you're just looking for somebody to solve it? Anybody ever had a car breakdown and you call like 2 or 3 mechanics and none of them have spots till 3 weeks from now? And you're just frantic trying to find somebody who can fix your car because you've got to go do a showing and you don't have a car and you can't rent a car. You ever had that experience before? Right? The problem that's in your mind is, I have a problem and I don't want it anymore. I want it to get away. I want it to go somewhere. That's an emotional feeling, right? There's almost a helplessness, a rage, a kind of backed into the corner spot that you're in there, right? Imagine if somebody walks up to you and says, we're the most amazing car fixing place in the world. Are you really interested in them right now?
Only if they're available.
Right? See what I'm saying? See how there was a question where you're like, they just told you the most amazing thing. We have fixed millions of cars over the last 3 years. We're that awesome. Say it again.
Only if they're available.
Only if they're available. First question in your mind is, can you fix mine? And can you fix it now? Because all that other stuff don't matter. Right? But how many ad campaigns do you see that start with, we are awesome? Right? Money down the drain. Right? Now, there's a such thing as brand awareness so that people know who you are before they have a problem, so that they then come to you when they have a problem. That's a whole different thing. But if you're trying to get clients right now, you're trying to look for people that have problems that you can solve right now. But the first way you have to figure that out is to enter the conversation in their mind and start talking about the problem that they have that they don't want. Because that immediately triggers them to say, hey, you get me. How'd you know I was thinking about that? Right? Something as simple as, have you been trying to sell your house and you just don't know when the right time is for the market? That can get frustrating, can't it? What do you know about me based on that question?
Then you know a little bit about selling homes.
I know a little bit about selling homes, but what do I know more about? The person listening. How did you know that I had that problem? This is creepy, right? I walked in here. How many people want more leads? Me, I. How did I know? Right? It instantly made you want to know more about me and want to hear more about what I'm saying. Because I understand you. Key thing is this, and we'll talk about the second one here in just a second, but the main thing you want to take away from this, Maya Angelou said this a long time ago. It was one of my favorite quotes, and she said, people will forget what you say, people will forget what you do, but people will never forget how you make them feel. And when you can enter the conversation that's going on in the buyer's mind, you make them feel seen, you make them feel heard, you make them feel valued. And guess what the top 3 things for engagement are? Feeling seen, feeling heard, feeling valued. Now here's a bonus tip for you. That works with employees and team members too. This same thing that I'm teaching you with marketing, I teach leaders about leadership. Because the way you get people engaged and wanting to do and wanting to move in the direction that you're going, same idea. You enter the conversation that's already going on in their minds. So you can have that one for free. All right, so the second thing that we want to talk about, because some people have problems, but some people are more focused on a solution that they're trying to achieve that they can't find anywhere, right? So the problem may be a toothache. The problem may be, can't fit into their clothes. The problem may be whatever the case may be. But then there's a solution that's always attached to that. There's a solution that's on the other side of that. And oftentimes, they can't find it anywhere. That's why they're still struggling. If they could find it, no conversation going on in their head. But the fact that they can't find it, that's the key. So same idea. You got the home buyer who can't sell their house because they don't know how to time the market. What's the solution that they want? And I'll give you a hint. Most people will say, to know when to sell their house. That's not the solution that they want. Yeah, I didn't. Maybe. I like where you're thinking, but dig deeper. What's the solution that they really want? So let's dig for a second. I want to hear from somebody in the back because I got my people in the front. You're doing amazing, co-star. I want to hear from you all in the back so that I know that this is interesting to you as well. Why do people sell houses, period? Say it again. To make money. Why? To buy another house. To pay off debt. To relocate. So do you see that the problem of selling the house, the solution is not, I want my house sold. Yay, I got my house sold. It's the why behind selling the house. Have you just gotten a new job and you need to relocate fast? Is the market scaring you right now about whether or not you're going to be able to keep your family together? Right? Solution that they want, but that they can't find is selling their house fast enough to be able to relocate. Are y'all following what I'm talking about here? Now, the key thing is if you can get into any of those areas, what you immediately do is you create a sense of familiarity with the buyer. You go from being on the other side of the table with them to being on the same side of the table, looking at the problem with them and trying to find a solution with them. Now, are they listening to you and looking at you with the side eye? Like, what are you trying to sell me? Yes, no, maybe? What do we think? Their ears are perked up. But think about it. If you're talking about the same thing that they're talking about, how are you selling them anything? They were already talking about it. And that's why getting inside the conversation that's going on in their heads is so important, because here's the key. We hate to be sold, but we love to buy. Zig Ziglar used to say it like this. Sales is nothing more than helping people get what they already want. But what's required for you to be able to do that is to take yourself out of the equation as the hero. So many of us set sales goals. I want to sell 5 houses. I want to sell 10 houses. I want to sell 30 houses this year. Me, I. Here's the reality of your profession. You never sell a house. People buy houses. You help people sell houses. You help people buy houses. Now, if you're an investor and you got your own properties and you do, then yes, you sell houses. But if you're not in that group, you are the helper. You are the guide. You are not actually doing the selling. Right? And if you don't believe me, have any of you all ever brought a contract to a seller and they said no? Has that happened in this room? Oh, y'all are like sleep. What's going on? No. Have you ever brought a contract to a seller that you were representing and said, here's a contract to buy, and the seller said, I don't want to do it at that price. I don't want to do it those contingencies. I don't want to do it unless they come in with this much money. I know I told you that I would sell for here, but this is Johnny's favorite house, and so we need a little bit more money. You've had that happen, right? See how I told you you're not selling the house? Say it again. That's it. You're the helper, right? I was an attorney. I used to tell my clients all the time, and I was a defense attorney, right? I'm the one keeping people out of jail. But at the end of the day, I can't tell them what to do. I can't tell them whether to go on the stand or whether not to go on the stand. I can't tell them to have this person or to have that person. Now, I can strongly suggest, right? And we used to have these letters that we would have clients write sometimes when they wouldn't take our advice, where it basically said, I have advised you to do this. You have chosen against my advice to do this thing that will probably land you in jail. I just want you to sign this letter that says that I told you not to do it so that later, when you're upset that you're in jail, you can remember that I told you not to do it. Right? Now, it's a lot more legalese than that, and it's mainly to keep me away from malpractice lawsuits. But the basic point is, I can't make the decision. You can't make the decision. Therefore, embrace your role as the guide and learn how to be the best guide you can be. And the first key to being a great guide is entering the decision, entering the conversations in the mind of your buyer. So what's a tool that we can use to do that? Here is what we call the conversion equation. This is how you go from that moment of interest or that moment of meeting you to them actually wanting to move forward with you. First, we have to interrupt that conversation that's going on in their minds. So, how do we interrupt that conversation? We have to give them a headline, some sort of statement that lets them know that we're aware of the problem that they have that they don't want. Right? I gave you a couple examples here earlier, right? Have you been trying to sell your house and you just can't find the right agent? Has the doom and gloom that you've seen on the news made you skeptical about whether or not you're going to be able to relocate this year? Right? Something simple that helps them understand that you get them, that you know what's going on. The next thing is then we want to engage them. It's great to get their attention, but we want to keep their attention. And that's where you start talking about the answers. Well, here's that solution to that problem. Here's what you need to do next. Well, the key to selling a house in a market like this is X. The key to selling a house in a market like this is having the right team behind you to take all the work off of your shoulders. Right? Then you want to educate them. And in the education, this is the key. The thing that you're doing is you're providing information that kind of sets you apart from the rest of the crowd. It helps people to understand that you're different and that you're superior to your competition. This is where you tell them something that other realtors might not tell them, right? This is where you give the statistic that 25% of houses that go on the market this year are going to sell in the market like this. Do you want your house to be one of the houses that does? Right? And the other 75% are going to be on the market with realtors who don't understand the power of a team in this type of market. Now, I'm just making all that up. It sounds good, doesn't it? Now, y'all know what the real is about how to sell houses in this market, right? But the whole key is, by being able to talk that way, you give people the understanding that, wait, this person really knows what they're talking about. They're not just making stuff up, right? Now, I know enough about the market. I've done some investing. I've done some sales. So I can make stuff up that's pretty accurate, right? But for you all, this should be top, right? What are the top 5 things that people do wrong in trying to sell a house, right? You know those things. What are the biggest mistakes that realtors make in listing houses in a market like this? All right? And even if you're a new agent, here's the beauty of it. You don't have to have all these answers because you work for a what? Starts with a B. A broker. And how do people become brokers? Say it a little bit louder for the people in the back. Experience. There we go. And so you can go and ask questions to your brokers and get information that you have no means of knowing on your own. And then you use that information to make you the expert with the person that you're guiding. Because here's the interesting thing about being a guide. I don't have to have run an entire marathon to guide you in running a marathon. I just have to be a couple of steps ahead of you. Especially if I have some people that are a couple of steps ahead of me giving me the advice. Right? When I was in the military, we would do formation runs. So you got 3 people across and you got 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 people deep, right? And so you're running and you really can't see. You ever been in traffic and you know how it is where you can't see more than like 2 cars in front of you because everybody is here? Same idea. So you're running, and then you all of a sudden you'll start hearing step, 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 and then the person in front of you will say step and step up, and you're like, oh, there's a step. Because you wouldn't have seen it otherwise because, again, it just pops out of nowhere. Or you'll see everybody's arm do like this while we're running. And then you'll see the person next to you, their arm will do like this, and they'll move this way, and you'll see that there's a pole right there. You're like, haha, thank you. I'm glad I was paying attention, right? The beauty of it is the person at the front of the formation saw that pole first. I didn't see the pole for 15 people back, because I was very rarely at the front of a formation, because running was not my thing, even though I chose to join the Marine Corps. I'll tell you about that story and how I'm a glutton for punishment on another day. But I didn't have to see the pole except for right when the person in front of me saw it. So the beauty of your position is you don't have to know all the answers to be able to guide the people that you're going to be guiding to the success that they want. Because just by the nature of having to go get your license and do all the things you had to do and working in the offices that you're working in, you are many steps ahead of who you're going to be working with. Good to go? So you educate them and let them know that you are the choice. And lastly, you have to create an offer that is irresistible. You have to create an offer that's a no-brainer offer so that they can't turn it down. And again, this is where sometimes we get too anxious. This is where we try to close the whole deal in one conversation. All right? So, quick poll. For those of you all that have sold more than 5 houses, what's the average time that it takes to develop the relationship, get the property under contract, and get it to closing? Say again? 8 weeks. Right? 6 to 8 weeks. So let's just think about that for a second. 6 to 8 weeks. Even if you give the presentation of your life, and they're like, yes, I'm working with you, Angela. I'm going to work with no one else. It's still 6 to 8 weeks before you've actually done the thing that you came there to do. Sometimes years. I heard that. Yeah. Right? Right? Now, the key thing to understand in that is you don't have to rush it. And the goal is to get them to continue saying yes and to continue delivering. Something as simple as getting them to agree to let you come see the house. Getting them to agree to come have a meeting with you, right? And in that meeting, you'll deliver more value than any other realtor has delivered in that one meeting. Right? Because every time you get the opportunity to show them that you're better than the other realtors, guess what you're doing? You're putting deposits into that relationship bank. And as you put deposits into that relationship bank, you don't have to ask for the sale. You don't have to ask for all the rest of that type of stuff right away. It'll come. But what's funny is most people don't realize that even if you don't get that sale, that person becomes a referral source for all the other people. Because they're going to go, sometimes you're going to miss the sale. Sometimes they're going to go with somebody else. But now they have a bad experience to compare to the experience that they had with you all the way up till they said no. One of the most enjoyable feelings is when somebody goes with somebody else, has a bad experience, then comes back to you. They begin telling you how good you are and explaining to you how amazing it would have been had they worked with you and how they'll never make that mistake again. Anybody ever had that feeling? Say aye. There we go, right? So understand that if you're in this game for real, entering the buyer's mind and executing on the conversion equation will help you to develop that foundation for your business that you need, which is your reputation. And as you move forward, leads will start to come, and it's a compounding, it's a snowball. All right? Nowadays, I get calls from places all over the country wanting me to do stuff, and I don't even know how these people found out about me. But I remember the days when there were no calls, when there was nothing that was happening, when I was having to go to lunches and having to go to networking events and having to do this and having to do that, and nobody knew who I was. Now, it's a whole different ballgame. Now, my assistant handles my calendar for all of my meetings, all of my lunch meetings, all the rest of that type of stuff, because literally, it would take me hours if I was trying to do it myself. That's the foundation that you can build by just doing these simple steps and ensuring that you're entering the conversation that's going on in the buyer's minds. So, questions on that idea? This is the point where you get to tell me I'm wrong, or there's something that I don't understand, or there's something that doesn't work. I always like to call this the stump the chump section. I love it. Say that again.
We don't have an assistant taking up all our ordeals, so I'm not going to tell you you're wrong.
No. This is the time, right? And I appreciate that, but I really want you all to think about it. I'm not about informational education. Like, I like the fact you can take notes and everything like that, but I don't want you to walk away from here and be like, wow, Robert, that was really interesting. He gave some really good points, right? Because what happens is, here's a stat for you. 80% of the people that hear a talk will do nothing with the information that they hear from that talk. Yeah, when I heard that, I was like, oh, because I talk for a living. I was like, wow, I thought I was effective. Nope, not really, right? Now, here's how I try to get to be part of 20% and increase make sure that my groups increase to 20% is this. Instead of informational education, we try to do what's called transformational education. And the difference between the two is this. I want you to change your behaviors, not just your thought processes. And the way you change your behaviors is you actually work through those challenges that you're thinking about right now. When you go and think about it, when you get ready to go apply this, when you get ready to go try this, what's the obstacle that you're going to run into? That's what I want to hear about today. That's what I want to work through with you. We've got another about 5 minutes before you all got to get to your next thing. So that's what I want you to give me that. Think forward, say, I'm going to try that. And then this is what's going to happen. Let's play that game. What were you going to say, Bri?
I was going to say that the conversion equation, I think, has to happen often with the same people sometimes, right? So it can't just be those four things. It has to be those four things and those four things and those four things. Because you continue to be on a journey and you're being led to a new obstacle all the time. So
exactly.
We're not closing that first day,
Mm-hmm.
the first week.
Right.
3 weeks in, we're always at the sign.
Right. Yeah. And that's why the offer is so important. You've got to know what you're trying to convert. See, there's a lot of different reasons for marketing campaigns, right? Like I taught you all about brand awareness. Sometimes all you want is for people to remember your name. It's perfectly fine. Those ads that are like, we are awesome, and they say them like 50 times, you remember their names, right? I think Coinbank, remember in the Super Bowl, they just had the thing that was blinking around, and everybody remembered that. It was like the most remembered ad of the Super Bowl, and then they were like, Coinbase. Right? That was it. But that's about brand awareness. So if your goal is just for people to remember who you are, boom, that's a conversion, right? But then there's another thing where you want to pique interest, where you want them to actually be interested in what you're doing. You want them to ask more questions. So a conversion is a callback. A conversion is, well, hey, can I get your card? A conversion is, oh, let's talk more about that. A conversion is, let's have lunch. That's the offer, right? And that's the conversion. But then there's the third piece, which is what most people are worried about, which is making the sale. But you have to understand that there's a lot of conversions that happen before the big conversion.
We focus on that too much instead of the groundwork that needs to go in.
Exactly. And what it does is it makes us feel underwhelmed by all the conversions that happen on the front end. Right? And I get it. Remember, I was in that spot where it was like, okay, yeah, this is great. I appreciate that you like me, but I need you to put some money in my pocket. Right? I got bills to pay. Bills, like, I can't go to the bank and be like, they like me a lot. It's not how it works. Right?
Focused humility, right?
Right? And so I get it. It makes perfect sense. But the thing that you have to be able to do is remember this, a marathon, it's not a sprint. And for some of you all, that means that you have to work a part-time job. That means you have to do something else to make money right now so that you can give yourself the ability to sustain the marathon that it takes to build your business. All right? It's one of the funny things that I learned, and I first learned it when I had my Amway business. There were some of those kids that came in and they crushed it, and they went, platinum and were on all the trips and doing all the things. But then when you would dig into those stories, they had a friend or a family member or somebody who bought an unconscionable amount of product, right? And because they had those people in their space that were buying things directly from them because they were sowing into their business, not because they actually sold them on the stuff, but because they believed in them, they wanted them to be successful, boom, they hit it, right? I remember there were a whole bunch of New York businesses, that was the basic thing. They were all either West Indian immigrants or East Indian immigrants, depending on which group it was. And they all bought together, they all worked together. And so it was one of those types of things where it was an agreement that they were going to buy from each other instead of buying from anybody else, even if it cost more money, because they knew what they were doing. And once you started seeing it, I was like, oh, so they didn't actually like sell. They sold a different thing. And I don't have that thing available to sell, right? But it taught me something, though, because I looked at the other people that had built it the conventional, the organic way, and you saw that it took time. And so when you start thinking about a business, you're always going to find those people that are the quote unquote rock stars, right? The one hit wonders. But if you actually go look at the one hit wonders, what you'll find out is that they have been doing this for 15, 20 years, right? Like everybody looks at Miley Cyrus as like, oh, see, kid Disney, blah, 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 forgetting that her dad was Billy Ray Cyrus, right? It makes sense that if your dad has a number one, as a kid, you can figure out how to get a number one TV show and all the rest of that, because they already know the business. And it's not saying that she didn't earn it, as much as she didn't earn all of the connections and all of the networking and all. She leveraged his network, right? And so ding, 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 remember that you all have those things that start with a B. Say it louder. Brokers. And your brokers all have experience and connections, networks. Leverage their connections, leverage their networks. Good to go? All right, everybody. It has been a pleasure. Hopefully, did you take something away with you that you feel like you can actually apply in your life? Yeah. Then I have done my job. Have a phenomenal rest of your morning, and I will see you soon.